when we feel compelled to use a particular technique or approach, that's often where the misattunement comes in, and actually it stops being helpful at all to the client. And I felt that as a client, that I was there and suddenly something was being done to me that I hadn't not even just consented to in one sense, but I hadn't collaborated in to come up with the idea. Whereas when I came up with the idea alongside the therapist, even if that was a therapist suggesting a handful of things that we could try, and I got to choose which one I felt was going to work for me, then I was invested in it, and it didn't feel like it was being done to me. It felt like I was taking agency, and I was saying, what we need to do, I need to ground a little bit now, don't I? Because I've got a little bit too overwhelmed. That's very different than being told, okay, we need to do a grounding technique with you now. That's what I was saying about the idea of techniques that we use to resolve traumatic memory, for example. I think they definitely have their place as long as the client is invested in them and is almost asking you for them at one level in one way. I know they're not likely to do that directly, but is very invitational towards the idea of we need to resolve this traumatic memory. Although, how can we do that? And then there can be an offering of, well, we could try this, we could try this. And that's very different from being stuck in that freeze response where you're looking for rescue and you're looking for that rescue to come from obviously outside yourself. And so a therapist swoops in and then performs that rescue by doing something to you. And I think we've missed it there, because the recovery from trauma is the re-empowerment of the client to move out of freeze themselves, not to be rescued out of freeze. And sometimes when there's massive crisis going on, or it may be very early days, or there's huge levels of decompensation, we have to kind of play around the edges, and sometimes you have to be more directive or more rescuing than perhaps you want to. I think what's important is that overall, in the course of things, that there's a movement towards the client moving out of freeze and stuckness themselves with your support, rather than you yanking them out of it, and by imposing something on them.